Hi there everyone, Morgan with Event Answer here, and today I want to share with you how to decorate holiday lanterns. So I have 3 lanterns in front of me decorated in 3 different styles, and I'll show you how to accomplish each one of these as well as some tips for decorating lanterns in general. So follow along and I'll show you how I made these 3 and how you can use them at your next gathering. The first lantern is more traditional in style, and I have my black IKEA lantern here, and I'm just going to put a battery operated candle on the inside, so it's got a little bit of flicker but very traditional looking. And then I'm going to be using 3 picks of pine here, and they have their own pine cones attached, so I'm just going to fluff that out a little bit. I'm going to use 3 of those in a triangular pattern so that they're all pointing away from each other. And the key to a hand-tied arrangement like this is having a firm grip on the stems below. And that way I can bend all of the branches how I want, and I know that they'll stay in place because of that firm grip on the stems. And eventually where I'm holding those stems, I'll use a chenille stem or pipe cleaner to secure everything. So I'm going to add some of the rusted bells to this in opposite patterns. And every so often I'm going to hold it up to the lantern to make sure my sizing is correct to the size of my lantern. I'm not overwhelming it. So I'm just going to spread out all of the little branches of the bells, of the little berries here as well, and just fill in any gaps that I see in the arrangement. So once I have everything generally placed where I want it, I'm going to take my black chenille stem, and right where I've been holding the arrangement together, I'm going to tightly wrap it around a couple times and then twist that so that none of the pieces shift as I put it on the lantern. So this lantern has slots in the top as well as a handle, so you could absolutely attach this to the handle, but because I have those vent slots on the top, that's how I'm going to attach it to the lantern. So I'm just bending the ends of the stems here so that they sit sideways on that lantern, and I'm just going to take the chenille stem that was wrapped around the stem, curl the end of it, and put that right through those vent slots in the top of the lantern. Now I'm also going to twist this really tightly to make sure it's secure to the lantern, and even come back with a second chenille stem to hold the stems in place. Now I'm not going to worry about hiding the stems because this lantern is intended to be viewed from the front. But if you were going to use this as a centerpiece for the middle of a table, you may want to come back with another piece of greenery just to hide those stems from the opposite direction. I'm going to accent the greenery with this black and white ribbon. I had some red earlier but decided the black and white was better. And I'm just going to make a loop here with the 2 tails. I'm not going to do a full bow, so I'm just going to cut a pipe cleaner or chenille stem in half and use that to secure the ribbon to the arrangement. So I've got maybe 2 feet of ribbon here, so I have the loop with a long tail, and I'm just going to cut that clean and then come back and add a V-cut to the ribbon, and this will give it the double pointed ends that look really pretty. So I'm going to do that to both ends of this and then tie it off with that chenille stem right where I want the loop to be, and I'm going to squeeze that loop a little bit so it gives it a nice fold, and then I'll take the chenille stem and tie it to the back of the arrangement where I want that loop to be. And then I'll just repeat this with a second piece, and this is a wire edged ribbon, so I can manipulate the ribbon and make it stay in really pretty folds how I want it. So I'm just going to curl the ends a little bit, give it a nice bit of motion, and this lantern's ready for display. For the next design, I'm using my larger IKEA lantern, and instead of having the display on top so much, I want this one to spill out of the lantern, which would look gorgeous at a wedding or a shower. And this is going to be made possible by this beautiful piece of draping eucalyptus. Now this is 1 bush that I bought at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just going to fold back the shorter pieces and leave the longer ones to spill out of the lantern. And I'm also going to take the stem and fold it back so it'll be under the long pieces, and this will lay pretty flat in the bottom of the lantern. I'm just going to stand up those little ones inside so it'll give it some volume inside the lantern. And then on top of that, I'm going to make a little hand-tied bouquet that'll sit inside. So I have these white globe flowers, and I don't really like the shimmery leaves on these, so I'm pushing them clear to the bottom so that you won't see them in the display. And then into those, I'm going to mix in another set of eucalyptus. Now this is a shorter piece, and I'm just going to interweave the flowers and the greenery so that they're nice and spread out. And to this, I'm gonna add a floral pick, which has some blue thistle and a dark maroon succulent. And I love this color choice. And I'm just gonna add those in and make sure it's nice and round. And then I'm going to secure that with a chenille stem so that they'll stay in place where I want them. And then I'll bend the end of the stems so that it'll fit down in the lantern pretty low. Because right now, if I just laid it down, you might see those stems. So I'm just gently going to nestle that bouquet down into the eucalyptus that's already in the lantern. I'm just double checking to make sure you can't see any of those stems from any sides. If you can, just move some things around until they're nicely camouflaged. So with that sitting up pretty high in the lantern, I'm going to have it continue to drape out. So with a little bit more of the white globes, I'm going to go ahead and cut those free from their bush. And if you just snap the wire, they'll come right off. And I'm going to pop the leaves off of these since I really don't like the look of that. And I'm just going to lay these coming out from the lantern. So I've also got a couple more of these picks, so I'm going to pull that right outside the lantern and then around that nestle in these white flowers. And so you have this big part in the lantern and it slowly spills out in front in a really romantic way. I'm going to take one more of those picks and spread them apart just a little bit and mix that with one more piece of eucalyptus. And I'm going to put this on top of the lantern just as a little bit of accent up high. I'm not going to bother with any chenille stems here because I've got those vent holes on top. I'm just going to stick the stems in through those vent holes on top, and that'll hold it in place. I don't have to worry about those moving around too much. So I'm just going to fluff those out to give it a lot of volume, and then on top of that eucalyptus, I'm going to add that one last pick into the middle of it and just make it so it drapes over the edge and has some nice soft volume. I could just imagine this at a table at a wedding or at a shower, and I think it would be just lovely. The last lantern is a really bright and festive design, so I'm going to fill the lantern with these red balls as well as some fairy lights. So I'm going to tip it on its side and open the door and layer in a bunch of these fairy lights. And they don't have to be super organized, you just want to get a bunch of them in there and layer in some balls on top of that. And you're going to go back and forth between adding balls and putting more lights on the inside, and that way you get a nice coverage of lights around the balls, and it'll reflect the light really pretty inside the lantern. Instead of putting greenery on this, I'm going to have a gigantic bow be the focal point of this arrangement. So I have two different ribbons in coordinating colors, and I'm going to layer them on top of each other and make a bow using chenille stems and a pair of scissors here. So I'm going to have the red underneath and the green on top, and I'm going to make a big bow by layering back and forth. So to do this, you make one large loop and then you twist it in the middle. Now always keep the green on top of the red. That's going to be the key here. Make a second loop and make sure that they're the same size. And then you're going to repeat this until you have 6 loops of this large size. Then you're going to come back and make 4 more loops that are smaller. So you'll see here it's about an inch shorter than the bigger loops. So I'll have 4 of those, and then I'll finish this off with 1 loop in the center. So right where my fingers are holding the loops together, I'm just going to make one final one over my thumb and make sure that ribbon goes off to the side. So right where my thumb is, I'm going to put a chenille stem and twist it really tightly around the center there, and that's what's going to hold the bow together. And then I'm going to attach it to the lantern. So I have the chenille stems that tied the bow together. I'm going to attach it to the top of the lantern. So this is another one where you could do it to the handle, but I'm going to go through those vent holes in the top and make sure it's really securely tied to that lantern. Once it's attached, I'm going to go ahead and fluff out all of the ribbon. So making sure the tail points down because I want it to drape down over the edge of the lantern. I'm just going to spread out all of those loops that we made and start fluffing them up so they're nice and round. I then just trimmed up the tails so that they were at a nice angle, and then I curled them around my fingers, kind of like a curling iron, to give them some volume. So I'm going to add to these lime green sparkly additions, and I want these to come out of the center of the bow. I'm also going to add the lime balls that you see as well, and these are going to nestle right behind the bow and bend around that top shelf. So I'm going to put a 90 degree and a 90 degree into the stem, and that way it'll sit nice and level on the lantern. So I'm going to do that to both lime pieces. I started to put the candy cane pieces on there, but decided I didn't like them, so go ahead and leave those off. And then I'm going to tie this securely together with a chenille stem so that they don't shimmy, and then I'm going to attach it to the lantern again with another chenille stem right behind the bow. If your lantern's going to be viewed from all angles, you may want to put a second bow on this side to hide all the mechanics of the stems. Final step is to work in all those lime accents in between the loops of the bow. And so I'm just working those around the loops and hiding the stems as much as possible, but trying to make it so that it looks like it's exploding out of the bow. And that'll do it for this lantern. It's ready for a festive party. I hope you found today's project inspirational. Lanterns are a staple in my event inventory because they're so versatile. And they're not just a holiday decoration, but they're great for weddings, showers, birthday parties. They can be any kind of theme and do a really nice job of adding a classy level to a simple decoration. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a like. It lets me know that you're enjoying these kind of videos and want to see more projects like this. If you want to see other projects, you can check out these videos over here. I've got other DIYs, event planning tips, and tutorials on how to make a great party for your own life. So until the next time, I'll see you later.